supertalk1270.com.
Welcome to Extension Connection on Supertalk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the Supertalk 1270 studio, this is Extension Connection.
Good morning and welcome to the Extension Connection. We have the Morton County staff here today, and we have Carla Mickle, Vanessa Hoynes, and yours truly, Jackie Buckley. And we'll be visiting with you about many upcoming extension events and updates, and then, of course, some educational information for you as well. Carla, do you want to give us a brief update what you're going to talk about?
Yep, I have a couple of things here regarding back to school and things that really parents should be thinking about as the school season starts, and that is teen drinking and a program called Parents Lead, Listen, Educate, Ask, and Discuss, and how you can visit with your youth about drugs and alcohol. And then some information on addressing conflict, something else that kids could see here as the new year starts with school, and so some interesting tips with that.
Sounds good. This is Vanessa, and I'm going to talk about, I have an upcoming food preservation class, the final one in the series. And then I also am going to talk a little bit about a falls prevention class that's going to be happening this fall, starting in September. And then we'll just talk about some food preservation questions I've been getting in the office. And then I'll tell you all about celebrating August being Sandwich Month.
Sandwiches.
And who named the sandwich? We'll talk about that.
That's
so
good.
Stay tuned.
Maybe I'll get some ideas because I have to do sandwiches next week for my range camp.
Well, there you go. We got some tips to create a sandwich.
Yep, that'll be good. I'm going to talk about some diseases in lawns, and namely rust and powdery mildew. We've been getting some calls on that, as are some other agents throughout the state. We had our extension horticulture call this morning at 9, and that question did come up. I also have some cropping information to share with you, and also some more yard and garden things, and then fertilizing your lawn for fall and trying to think about getting it ready to go to bed. You know, I hate to say that. It's the end of August, but we need to make some preparations for that.
When the buses start running, that's the next step.
And school starts, well, has started for some already.
Yeah.
And some start tomorrow. I know Mandan starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
So is Bismarck.
Bismarck,
Yep. And so that'll be something that I'm sure kids are anxious to go back to school. And I've talked to some parents, and they're really anxious for their kids to go back to school.
Seems more this year than you've heard in the past.
Yeah. So I'll start with talking a little bit about powdery mildew. Powdery mildew resembles powder or flower on the upper side of ornamental and turf grass leaves. I also had a call yesterday. The lady had powdery mildew on her peonies, and she was really concerned. And really, there isn't a whole lot you can do. We've had a lot of humidity and a lot of moisture, and that's what causes it. And especially if they are in a shady area and they don't dry off during the day. The disease typically occurs during periods of high humidity, air temperatures around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, poor airflow, and shade. The disease rarely warrants a chemical control, but a severe outbreak can kill your turf grass, especially a newly established lawn. So you can use some chemical controls. There's some fungicides, Fungo, Flow, Balaton, Banner Max are a couple that are some names to mention. Some cultural methods to prevent powdery mildew is if there's any way you can improve airflow and sunlight by selective pruning trees and shrubs, avoid excessive leaf wetness, fertilize with nitrogen to allow the turf grass to outgrow the disease, and plant-resistant cultivars is another option. Also, try and water your grass in the morning so it has the opportunity to dry off and not being wet all through the night if you're watering in the evenings. And I know that for some of us, we water because we're working, we water in the evening. So we just kind of have to make do with that. Another thing that has kind of popped up is rust. And so if you're seeing a red color on your lawnmower and it's kind of a powdery substance, that is probably rust on your leaf blades. Rust affects all turf grasses grown in North Dakota, especially Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass, which is also often included in many of the seed mixtures for quick cover. The disease typically occurs in late summer, which is where we are, late August, during extended wet periods accompanied by air temperatures ranging from 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Nutrient-deficient grass grown in shade, or turf managed under other forms of stress are very susceptible to the infection. Symptoms include yellow spots on the leaves, which cause the lawn to look off color. The spots develop into pustules that produce copper-colored fungal spores that easily adhere to shoes, clothing, and skin as one passes through the infected area. Although rust typically subsides when dry weather returns and rarely warrants chemical control, a severe infection can cause grass blades to wither and die. There are a couple chemical controls or fungicides that you can use. One of those is called Heritage, Daconil, Ultrex, Medallion, and Banner Max are all chemical controls. Some cultural methods to prevent rust include avoid excessive leaf wetness by providing irrigation in the morning, improve airflow and sunlight by selectively pruning trees and shrubs, provide adequate nitrogen fertilizer, and avoid plant stress. And so those are some of the things that you can do to help prevent rust in your lawn. And Jim is cueing us that we need to go for a break, and so we will do that, and we'll be back with the Extension Connection after the break.
Right now, 65.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
Carla? Okay. Welcome back to the Extension Connection. I think were we talking on the air with that, Jim? Sorry. That's okay. And so we're going to kick it over to Carla. I'd just like to remind everybody that we are live in the studio today. This is not taped. And so if you have questions, please feel free to call, or you can look for the information on our Facebook or webpage. And in addition, you can call our office at 667-3340, and the number here is 663-1270. So feel free to call. Carla, what's up?
Okay. Well, with back to school, of course, I think of kids moving from middle school into high school, and even middle school kids this affects. But we're all going to be faced with decision making, and going to be some tough decisions as we get older, older teenagers. And so I want to visit a little bit about a program called Parents Lead, which is Parents Lead is listen, educate, ask, and discuss. And it's a really great program offered here in North Dakota in partnership with the North Dakota Department of Transportation and the NDSU Extension Service. Am I missing? Oh, and a collaboration with North Dakota Department of Human Services as well. And the program is it's evidence-based about underage drinking prevention, targeting parents through statewide web-based communications. And it's really designed to help parents initiate and or continue conversations with their children about underage drinking and other difficult subjects at any age. It's role model positive and healthy behaviors, monitor their children's whereabouts, and provide support and engagement. And a really neat component of it is that it's interactive. The website's really easy to use. You can log on to www.parentslead.org, and you can select everything from kindergarten through first grade, all the way up to 9th through 12th grade, and look at different scenarios that you might be facing and things that you can say to your child, or look at behaviors even that your child may be displaying that you can recognize and be able to have those difficult conversations. The Parents Lead program began with a primary focus as underage drinking. However, recently, work has shifted towards a shared risk and protective factor framework. Many of the same factors that influence an individual's likelihood of initiating underage drinking are the same that lead to other behavioral health problems. So, drugs and alcohol are just one of them, but other behaviors that you can recognize within your youth. Existing research and data suggests there are a number of common or shared risk and protective factors throughout life that impact both substance abuse and mental health outcomes. Applying a behavioral health lens to this prevention program helps us to see the connections between substance abuse and related problems and to take the necessary steps to address these problems in a comprehensive and collaborative way. You can go on to Parents Lead. You can actually sign up to receive monthly newsletters and be on their email list if anything comes out or develops. I know that they've sent out information, like if there is something within the community that's coming up or that has come up in discussion. They're really proactive as far as being able to get that information fed out to parents so that you can have those difficult conversations.
And those newsletters are age-based. So if you have an elementary age child, then you're going to be getting newsletters that are for that age student too. So getting the right information at the right time for your family.
Yeah. I was scrolling through there today, and I've been through there a couple of times, and just how you can have those conversations with the younger kids in your life and the older kids, and how they cater those conversations, or just give you examples of. It's great information, well put together.
And a lot of times, the research has shown time and time again that even though kids may have an idea of what you think about those topics, it never hurts to keep repeating that and to actually verbally tell them, what you feel about underage drinking and use of drugs or other things. And it's just a really good discussion to have. It'll also give you some good ways to help them have good responses if they're invited to a party or if they're asked to try something. It will give them some good kind of outs to be able to be prepared and be ready to share that without losing face. I mean, one of the best tricks is to share with them, to use you as the parent, to use you guys as the fall guy, to say, you know what, my mom said I had to be home by now. I really need to leave. And, gosh, she's really tough on me. And,
Yep.
all those things. Fine. Yep. Use the parent as the fall guy.
Yep. And what's interesting, too, is, you read research, and if you avoid the situation and you don't have those difficult conversations with your kids, that's when there tends to be a problem. But if you're open about it and, you ask questions and don't insinuate or accuse, you're in a much better situation, too, if you're asking those questions and just, making sure that your child knows that, hey, I care and I love you, and I just want to ask. I want to know. I want you to know that I'm open and you can come and talk to me about it. It's when you close up and you deny that there could be a problem is when you get into a problem.
Yeah.
So, but you want to convey that you care about and love your child. You express that you want to understand and help your child, and be willing to back off if your child resists and try another time. Don't give up. Your willingness to back off shows that you're respectful of your child and their privacy. Your teen can react to you in a variety of ways. They could be suspicious about your sudden interest in the topic, doubt that you will understand and respect them. Of course, mom's too old. She doesn't know what I'm going through. She doesn't understand. We did that to our parents, of course. Or I did, I know. Fear of hearing a lecture, last thing kids want. Indifference or lack of concern, and anger for invasion of their privacy. Conversation with your teen about alcohol may always be difficult, but the more you talk with them, the easier really it does become. Some things, what to say, inform them. Talk about the risks associated with underage drinking, such as accidents or injuries, increased chance of sexual assault, reduced academic achievement, relationship issues, negative impact on your body, weight gain, blackouts, hangovers, bruises that are just, you don't know where they came from. It lowers your inhibitions. Empower your child. Talk to your teen about how to stand up for their beliefs and their decisions. Empower them to take a stand when someone is pressuring them to make high-risk choices, and discuss what they would do if such a situation presented itself and where to go for help. Do some role-playing. Ask them some questions. Be open and firm about it. Family consequences if caught using, what are they? Be clear in what consequences your teen will face, and think about setting up a behavior contract. School consequences. If you are caught with drugs or alcohol, what kind of school consequences are there going to be? You could be expelled. You could lose privileges in sports. You could lose, different things that you would consider rewards.
And actually, many of the schools too, even they have a rule of even being within, even if you were at a party, but if you're not using, if there is alcohol there, you are considered guilty.
Guilty of by association. We just had this conversation with my nephew this past weekend when he was studying for his driver's permit, and we were talking about guilty by association. So absolutely. Convey your willingness to help. This is a great time for you to express your love and concern for your child. Express your desire to help if they're struggling with something or find themselves in a difficult situation. You want to continue having conversations. Everything doesn't have to be discussed in a single setting. You can absolutely start the conversation if you feel like it's really not going anywhere or it's not going to progress like you want it to. Continue that conversation another time. It's not sit down, discuss, and you're done with it forever. Be a role model. Set an example of appropriate drinking behavior in your own life. Share stories about your own drinking can send a mixed message to your teen. For specific examples on how to respond to your teen's resistance or tough questions, again, you can register for the Parents Lead website for monthly tips via email. Really easy to do. So there's some other information here too. They talk about drugs and alcohol. Some things that you might hear. Weed is safer than drinking alcohol. What to say? Whether it's smoking pot, cigarettes, drinking, or behaving recklessly, I honestly don't want you doing anything that can harm you. What is going on in your life that makes you feel you want to use drugs or alcohol? So ask them why they feel they think they need to use. Perhaps it's peer pressure. Perhaps it's experimentation. You just never know. And some other just really great things on the Parents Lead, some signs and symptoms, peculiar odors such as marijuana, alcohol, or solvents, presence of drugs or drug paraphernalia. If your child is using a lot of eye drops, room deodorizers, incense, or scented candles, they might be trying to cover up something. Slurred speech, changes in dress, language, opinions, or behavior. A sudden change in family relations, really withdrawal or belligerence. Marked increase in family arguments either with parents or siblings. Noticeable changes in personality, changes in grades, changes in social patterns, legal problems or delinquent behavior, health concerns, frequently ill, nosebleeds, runny noses, nauseous, vomiting, headaches. All could be signs that your youth could be abusing drugs or alcohol. So, and with that, Jim is giving us the cue for a break, and we'll be right back with the Extension Connection.
Right now, 65.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
And welcome back to the Extension Connection. Again, it's the Morton County Extension staff here with you today. And before the break, we were talking about having conversations, difficult conversations with your youth about drugs and alcohol. And I just wanted to repeat again the website that you could go to and get a lot of really great information. There's a lot of really useful resources there. It's www.parentslead.org. And again, it's collaboration between the North Dakota Department of Human Services, North Dakota Department of Transportation, and the North Dakota University System. So if anybody has any questions, they can certainly get a hold of us, and I can post that later on our Facebook page too if you are interested in getting some more information. So with that, we'll kick it over to Vanessa. She's got some food preservation classes wrapping up.
Yes, we have. We've held classes throughout the summer. Our final class is coming up next week on August 30th. That's a Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8. And we're going to be focusing on pressure canning. And I know pressure canning sometimes is the one thing that people are uncomfortable with using. They're not really sure about that particular piece of equipment. So we're going to do some hands-on practice with how to use a pressure canner and give you some tips and tricks about how to make sure that you're using that equipment correctly. If you want to bring your pressure canner with you, we can also look at it and make sure that the gaskets are up to date and all those good things. And then also, if you want to have your gauge checked, you can bring that along, and I can sure check your gauge that evening too to make sure that that is reading correctly so that you can be canning your foods safely. We'll talk a little bit about the foods that should be preserved in the pressure canner, which would be those low acid foods like vegetables, meats. Those kinds of things are the things we're probably preserving more of right now. And so if you don't have a pressure canner and you want to preserve those types of things, one good thing to consider would be to freeze them. And we do have a publication about freezing vegetables, which is handy. It gives you all the blanching times that are required prior to freezing those vegetables. And blanching is just a method of either submersing your vegetables in boiling water, or you can use steam sometimes depending on the vegetable. But basically that blanching process actually kills the enzymes that continue to ripen that vegetable. And so by blanching, we stop that process, and when you freeze your vegetables, then you end up with a fresher product when you want to take it out and use it later. Sometimes people will report that perhaps their vegetables get kind of rubbery or that kind of thing, and that really is probably because they didn't blanch them before they froze them. But freezing is a very, very easy process. So if pressure canning is not for you, or if you don't have a pressure canner, that would be the way to go. Well, some of the questions that I've been receiving about canning in the last couple days have been focusing on tomatoes. And of course, the tomatoes are out there in full bloom and producing quite a bit, I think. I know Jackie's been getting some questions about blossom and rot and
bacterial spot and speck. Yep.
That kind of stuff too. So we have lots of tomatoes out there. A couple tips about tomatoes. Tomatoes, that's, is it a vegetable? Is it a fruit? That whole thing. And actually tomatoes are kind of they're in that middle range. We consider them a vegetable, but on the acid chart, they are kind of right at the edge of they're at the top of the line when it comes to fruits. They have one of the lowest acid levels of any of the fruits and one of the highest acids of any of the vegetables. And so they're caught kind of in that catch-22. And so they can be preserved either in a boiling water bath, or they can be preserved in a pressure canner. And so our publications do have directions for both. But one thing we do recommend, USDA recommends that we do add either lemon juice or ascorbic acid or citric acid to all of our tomato products to ensure that we have a high enough acid to be able to follow the directions that they recommend to preserve them. And so that's just another good way to be able to ensure that you're doing a safe product. The best way to do that, and what we recommend, is to add that lemon juice or citric acid directly to the jars. So that means if you are, as you're getting your jars prepared, just adding that lemon juice right away to those jars, and then making sure that is mixed in with the other fruits, other tomatoes, as you're adding those in there. If you're looking for the different times to either boiling water bath or to pressure can, and the times and pressures that you might need, the publication has all that information depending on what type of a product you are preparing. Anything from crushed tomatoes to tomato juice to just I know a favorite in the community is to just use your whole or half tomatoes and pack them in and let the tomatoes make their own juice. That's one of the favorites. So if you're looking for those directions, or if you would like to make your own ketchup, salsas are also popular, so we have those recipes included in this publication. And then if you have any other questions about as you're canning, whether it's tomatoes or anything else, feel free to give me a call at 667-3340. And our website has all of the canning publications available. They're there for you to print, to refer to as resources, or if you would like copies of those, you're welcome to stop by or give us a call also, and we can make sure we get those to you. And we do have a number of canning publications, so truly anything that you're interested in preserving, we can help you out and get you set on the right path, so you don't have to worry about safety of those products, and you also don't have to worry about them spoiling before you get a chance to eat them, because that's just a lot of time and energy and other resources that can be wasted if you're not using the proper directions and recommended recipes.
Vanessa, I have a question.
Yeah.
You're saying you're adding ascorbic acid or lemon juice.
Mm-hmm.
Could you use vinegar?
No.
Okay.
Yep. Lemon juice is what's required. And the vinegar does not have as high an acidity as lemon juice does. And so that's a really good question when it comes to like salsa recipes also. If a recipe calls for lemon juice, you can't substitute vinegar,
Okay.
but you can do it the other way. If it calls for vinegar, you can put lemon juice in instead.
Okay. All right.
But and I'm sure I've confused everybody now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yes, they vary in the amount of acid that they offer, and so that's why it's lemon juice that's really recommended.
Okay.
So no, that's a really good question, and I know I had a client call yesterday, and she was canning tomatoes, and she had looked in the information, but she had misunderstood, and she had added the citric acid to the kettle.
Oh.
And so we talked through that, and so she did go back and reprocess them again and added it to the jars instead, just to make sure that you have enough acid in each individual jar versus having it perhaps not mixed all the way through.
Yep, I always put it in the jar.
It's
easy to do.
It is easy, and it's just one of those things where sometimes you just get caught up in what you're doing and reading and all those kinds of things. Another tip that just to remind folks, if you're doing some canning, years ago we would always tell folks to take their lids and boil them and get them ready.
I read this one too from Julie.
Yeah, and the thing is right now is that the companies that are creating lids in the last 2 or 3 years, they have changed the solvent that is on the underside of the lid, the part that actually makes the seal, and that solvent is it's different in that like we said, we used to have to boil them. Now many of them are just recommending that you wash them. So think of it as if you purchased a plate at a store, you would wash it before you would use it, and that's basically what we're talking about. So you don't need to use boiling water. All those kinds of things, because in fact, if we boil those, what we're finding is that it reduces the ability for that solvent to actually create a seal, and so then folks are having difficulty with their jars not sealing, and so we don't want to do that, and that's just one of those habits that we've gotten into.
Yep. And I did some cherries, but I had old lids, so then mine all sealed. So I know that, and I did boil those because I know the older ones you are supposed to soften them up, and they all sealed, so I didn't have any problem. But I haven't bought any new lids recently, so I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, and it's the best thing is to just read on the box, because the box should tell you the directions. That should tell you what that manufacturer recommends, and so that's probably the best way to make sure that you're not inappropriately preparing them, because the last thing you want to do is have to reprocess all those things all over again. And then the other piece with the lids, again, years ago we used to really have to crank those rings down tight, and now the solvent is much thinner. And so if you really tighten down those rings, the lids can actually, the tops of the jars can actually cut through the solvent and then can also impede that sealing. And so we just talk about fingertip tight. So you don't have to bring in the big guys we used to do that. Come on in, Dad, come and help us to crank these down, that kind of thing. We don't have to do that anymore. Anybody can do it, and just using your fingertips, that's as tight as you need to do that. Well, I think we're getting a note that we need to take a break, and we'll just take a couple minutes. We'll be back with the Extension Connection.
Right now, 68.
The home for ABC News at the top of the hour is Super Talk 1270.
And we're back with the Extension Connection. This is the Morton County Extension Office, and this is Vanessa Hoynes. I wanted to share with you a class I have coming up this fall. It's for falls prevention. So anybody that yourself or anybody else that you know of that is in need of some help and is wanting to make sure that they don't fall in the future, which I think that's probably all of us, we'll be doing a series of classes on Thursday afternoons beginning on September 29th. And it will meet for 7 consecutive weeks. And so if you're interested in that class, please give us a call at 667-3340. There is a fee for the class. The cost is $20, which actually covers the cost of an exercise weight that you'll be getting as a part of that class to build some strength along with your balance and learning all those things we need to be aware of in order to keep ourselves from falling. So if you're interested in falls prevention, the class is called Stepping On. Okay, well, I also did a little tease about August being Sandwich Month. And so I was trying to quiz the gals here and see if anybody knew who is credited with naming the popular menu item. In 1765, John Montague, who was the fourth Earl of Sandwich, is considered the person. Is that funny?
That's funny.
Is that
He's
funny?
the Earl of a Sandwich.
No, Earl of Sandwich.
Earl of Sandwich, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, they took his name and that's how the sandwich was named, which is kind of unique. But they credit him because he was a very busy man and he wanted an easy way to eat at his desk. And so that was kind of where this began. And then by the early 1900s, sliced bread was made available in American bakeries, and this made sandwiches even more a portable meal for you to take along. And so I know Jackie said she was looking for some ideas for sandwiches too. Sandwiches can be something that you can actually prepare and then freeze ahead. So if you're wanting to take them for lunches or if you're wanting to prepare a bunch of them ahead of time, many of the things can be frozen. A few ingredients, however, would be those that you'd want to stay away from. Things like eggs or jelly or tomatoes, pickles, onions, and mayonnaise would be some things that do not freeze very well, so you'd want to stay away from those. However, sandwiches made with peanut butter, cooked meats, whether it's chicken, roast beef, or turkey, would be good things to freeze. Shredded hard cheeses like cheddar or Swiss would be a good one to freeze. Canned meats like tuna or salmon freeze really well also. And then you could always add some of those fresh veggies and those kinds of things right before eating. So if that gives you a good tip, go ahead. If there's a couple sandwiches you really enjoy, freeze them ahead of time, and then you're ready to go for the week for taking sandwiches to work or sending sandwiches along with kids to school also. The tip about freezing sandwiches also makes them stay better in their lunchbox. You don't have to worry about a cold pack as much because you've added the cold pack with the sandwich. So if you need any more information about sandwiches, well, I know Carla has some trivia about sandwiches.
She does. I was going to bring that up too.
Yeah. Well, I was looking through, and now I'm going to I was going to actually post this question on our Facebook page, but the most popular sandwich in the world is... Jim.
Drum roll.
In the world?
In the world. We talked about it just a little bit ago.
Oh, the one you mentioned?
Yep.
PB&J?
Peanut butter and jelly. Most popular sandwich. Yep.
Do they eat that in other countries?
Yeah.
Oh,
cool. Well, according here, it said what most well-known sandwich in the world. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. And how many sandwiches in America do Americans eat every day?
Well, you told me, but I forgot.
300 million sandwiches. Woo! I know it's a lot of sandwiches. So
There's one sandwich per person for everybody in the country.
Pretty much, yeah.
Everybody gets a sandwich.
Mm-hmm. So, some interesting facts about sandwiches out there. I'm going to let Trivia Girl.
By the way, today is Free Waffle Day. No, it's Waffle Day, National Waffle Day.
It is?
Ah.
Maybe, I think somebody in town is giving away waffles, so let me check.
Okay, good deal.
Okay, you check on that, Jim. Jim is in here, and he's on the web and on Facebook while we're talking, and he keeps us on time.
Yeah, he's on the prowl for those waffles.
No waffling about it.
No. I guess I'd like to just visit with you a little bit about controlling weeds following small grain harvest. And a lot of the small grains, of course, are in the bin. And thrashed small grain fields have a clean and tidy look, especially from the highway. However, closer examination reveals a great number of weeds, especially water hemp, emerging through the stubble. Also, there's a lot of foxtail that is coming up as well. Controlling weeds post-harvest is essential component of the weed management strategy, since the goal is zero tolerance for weed escapes and new weed seeds entering the seed bank. Like always, begin by scouting fields and observing weed spectrum and size. Some weeds may have been cut by harvest equipment and are stems with insufficient leaf surface to intercept herbicide application. Allowing time for regrowth to occur will ensure their control. Several strategies you may want to consider include the following. You might want to do some tillage. Tillage is an effective means of controlling small weeds. However, first answer the question, were the weeds that may have gone to seed in harvested fields? Some weeds, such as the pigweed species, can produce viable seed in as few as 10 to 14 days after flowering. Consider delaying tillage to allow field mice, insects, and birds to eat seeds if weeds have produced seed. Seeds are a source of energy for insects, birds, and rodents. An internet search indicates predators of weed seeds can reduce the total number of seeds on the soil surface by 5% per day and over time consume 20 to 90% of the seed on the soil surface. In contrast, tillage after harvest will greatly reduce predation if seeds are buried. Next, chemical control. There are non-selective and residual herbicide options for controlling weeds post-harvest. Depending on the percentage of glyphosate-resistant weeds already present in the field, timely foliar applications, 6 inches or less in height of glyphosate at 3/4 to 1.5 pounds, or Liberty at 0.4 to 0.53 pounds per acre, plus 2,4-D ester at 3/4 to 2 pounds per acre, and you would want to use the higher rate for perennial weeds, can reduce the level of broadleaf infestation in the stubble field. Paraquat at 0.38 to 1 pound in 15 to 20 gallons of water also can provide good control that they did in a Kansas experiment. But it should only be used on the smaller weeds since it is a contact action herbicide. Be mindful of rotational restrictions to 2017 crops or restrictions for planting a late 2016, late summer, or fall cover crop if you're going to do that. Also, you could consider mowing. While mowing can be effective for broadleaf weeds that are tall enough to be cut below the height of the weed seed head, keep in mind that more broadleaf weeds may emerge in late summer due to changing soil moisture conditions, timing of small grain harvest, and delayed germination. Thus, the initial mowing may need to be followed with an additional mowing in case late weed emergence or controlled growth of broadleaf weeds from auxiliary buds located lower on the weeds, which are below the initial mowing height. And so that's some information. I know I talked to my brother-in-law, and he was going to have to go out and make some application of chemical because of weeds in his harvested grain fields. Did you find the answer,
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah, and it's kind of important because there's been a change. There was supposed to be a promotion this afternoon at Comfort Inn. They were going to offer free waffles to local law enforcement. They had to reschedule it because of everything going on at the courthouse and the reservation. They are going to reschedule. They said they would let everybody know when that comes up.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Thank
But
you.
don't go today. It's been
Yes. Okay. Okay, and then we just like to remind everybody that there's a football game on Saturday.
Really? Who's playing? Who's playing?
I think the Bison play about 6 o'clock. No, 6:30 is actually kickoff.
We get to raise a banner.
Yes, we get to
Yay.
raise the banner. So you want to be in the dome if you're going to the game by 6 p.m. so that you are there in time to raise the banner and to watch that, because that's kind of an awesome thing. I've watched it 5 times. 6
Very
times?
cool.
No, 5 times.
5 times, yep.
Yes, and so we're going to start for our 6-pack this Saturday for the quest for our 6th national championship. Will begin at the Fargo Dome on Saturday.
And
Go Bison.
And just one other thing, as we are starting off the new school year here, we're losing some folks in the 4-H world here to school. Yeah, they graduated from high school here this past spring and are off to college. So we just want to send our best wishes to them and good luck in their new adventures, and hope that they stick around as far as helping out and volunteering. And I know Jackie's got a few of them that are going to stick around and do some livestock judging with her. And so just best of wishes to all of our graduated and now college student 4-Hers.
Yep. And so that is about it for the Extension Connection for this week. And the Morton County staff will be back with you in 2 weeks to visit with you about more extension happenings.